Time for another love letter. This one was written back in May of 2015. I wrote it for Suspiria and to Dario Argento. Suspiria is a film about color. It is a film about reds, blues, and greens. Color has surrounded man on every side and subjected him to its influence since time immemorial. Suspiria will drown you in its rich, primary color-based palette. Suspiria is so beautiful that it might destroy you. It is a film about the physiology of colors. Dr. Max Lüscher was a Swiss psychologist who invented the Lüscher color test. It would have been extremely popular at the time of Suspiria. It was an exercise in color identification that accurately gathered personal information about a person or an individual based on his or her choices and rejections of colors. The Lüscher color test was simplified and became something of a parlor game in the mid to late 70s. Lüscher created his color test after an experimentation of his where he had asked his patients to focus psychologically on pure red. Lüscher recorded the effects that the mental image of the color red had on the nervous system. Just thinking about the color red made the heart beat faster, increased blood pressure, stimulated the respiratory system, and generally excited those who contemplated it. Lüscher discovered that each color had a psychological and physiological consequence. Once a color has been conjured, it cannot be undone. Colors are very powerful things. Colors are everywhere, like magic. What Dario Argento does in Suspiria is something similar to the Lüscher color test, but in reverse. Where the Lüscher test is meant to help you with your problems, Suspiria was deliberately constructed to damage you. Argento made a hypothesis too. He assumed that what would drive a sane man mad would drive a mad man sane. Suspiria is color therapy in hell. Let me repeat that. Suspiria is color therapy in hell. Every single splash of color in Suspiria was intended. Every instance of red was deliberate. All blues were intentional and the greens were on purpose. They each served the same function. Suspiria wanted to drive you insane. It went by the Lüscher test and did everything that was forbidden by it. The human sensory can't process certain color patterns intelligently and sanely. Argento presents these exact forbidden patterns in Suspiria. He constructs the way his colors flow and splat based on each color's unique physiology and potential energy. When he presents a color that is to be rejected, it is replaced with a pattern that cannot be refused or implied. The colors were meant to harm us. Argento wants to institutionalize us. The director wants us in straitjackets. He doesn't want our dreams this time. He wants our brains. Suspiria is a flawless composition. It is a horror movie miracle. It's an extraordinarily unique film that is visually compelling and horrifying. It possesses one of the creepiest atmospheres I have ever witnessed. The scariest thing about Suspiria is how gorgeous it is. I get lost in the choreography of its colors, in its opulent set design and overall visual craftsmanship. I get lost in the pure reds of its horror, in the blues of its women, in the greens of its fantasy, and in the yellows of its mystery. I get utterly lost in Suspiria. It's an utterly hypnotic piece. It is the funhouse art film. Suspiria is the visual definition of horror movie genius. It will scare, stimulate, and suffocate its viewer. It will terrify them like no other horror film can. Argento drew inspiration for his masterpiece from unlikely sources. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs served as his primary thematic and visual muse. Suspiria is a film of dark whimsy. It is it's fantastical like a fairy tale. It glides around, consumed by its own dream logic. This is how Argento writes Snow White. By getting lost in the pure red of the poisoned apple. The film treads on familiar Argento territory by possessing several evil maternal figures. Suspiria is a film of evil mothers smothering their sleeping children. It is a film about a coven of witches that operate a ballet school out of Germany. It is partly about feminine dominance, and it's mostly about colors. It's about dastardly women in maniacal shades of red, blue, and green. Cult icon Jessica Harper stars in the film, and I loved her in it. I thought she was great. She brought a foreign naivety and a sweet courage to her character. I loved her in Phantom of the Paradise, but I love her even more in Suspiria. Under Argento's direction, she flourished and cemented her peculiar legacy. Stefania Cassini and Joan Bennett are simply unforgettable in their supporting roles. Cassini's laugh has given me legitimate nightmares, and I don't think I'll ever forgive her for that. Argento's best work is also among the greatest cinematic achievements of all time. It is a landmark horror film that is elementally transcendental and visually incomparable. Suspiria is a technical wonder, a visual goldmine, and a storybook dreamscape. It's a perfectly made horror film. In Argento's crown, Suspiria is the largest, brightest, and bloodiest jewel. It is one of the best things I have seen on film. Flawless, flawless, flawless. I'm salivating over the magic that is Suspiria. This is a film that demands respect. It's something I can't help but worship. Suspiria is horror film art itself, in essence. Like, subscribe, comment. This is Zachary Conan. Wow, 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 wow. Oh. Didn't even mention the fucking Goblin score in my love letter. Well, I'm mentioning it now in the cringiest way possible. Thank you, guys. This is a brilliant film. Have a good one.